Celtic Ligers.
Recorded 20th of December 2024.
Welcome to Celtic Ligers. I don't know how this is going to be edited. Here is how this all happened, okay? So this is how this happened, yeah. James messaged me after we'd uploaded the other episode and be like, could you record on Thursday? So this is Thursday last week. So what would that have been? Would that have been Thursday the 16th of December? Does that make sense?
No, because today's the 20th. So Thursday would have been...
Thursday was the 12th of December.
Yes.
James was like, can you record on the 12th of December? And it was like, we haven't even reached the end of the week. So by the time that all that news that we talked about, it's just weeks old, okay? So there's some stuff that's like really like, it probably needs to, I think it needs to be on the record personally. So I don't know where this comes, but you'll hear it or you have heard it. But the listeners I'm talking about, Zaynab.
Oh, okay.
But the issue is that, so like it's just not very relevant at that point. But also the episode itself was like, we got to the end and I don't want to spoil it. So I don't know where this will come into it, but either way, I do remember distinctly reaching the end of that recording going, what the fuck did we just do? There was like an hour of it where I was like, seems sort of relevant. And then there was another hour, which is like, well, this is like me and James hanging out in the apartment watching videos on YouTube. So, anyway, for people who like that sort of content, you either have heard it or will hear it. But I thought better to invite our Middle East correspondent.
The expert.
Zaynab Lotfi on. And guess, Zaynab, what's the story with Syria?
What's the crack?
What's the crack with Syria? We wanted to talk about like the shit that was going on. Also, another thing that's really fucked up my recording and getting all this stuff out on time is maybe something that we will talk about beyond the paywall, where the social welfare are at it again, folks. They're determined to get your man, and they haven't won yet, but I am feeling pretty fatigued and upset and distressed. So I guess they won that part of it because it's Christmas time and I feel like shit. I feel like shit. But anyhow, that's all happening. Who knows what's going to happen with the Christmas episode next week? Could we call this the Christmas episode and put Christmas music on it? Hey, we've done it in the past. I might be doing it now.
Or you could put some racist Oriental music,
Oriental music.
I can say that, okay?
No, you can't. You fucking can't say that.
Yes, I can, because I'm from the Orient, Karen.
I didn't know the Orient was that big. I thought that the Orient was like Asia.
That's in America, okay? But
whatever. Just
no, but like
that's enough out of you.
No. Seriously, like that music where it's like that's kind of, they call it Oriental music where I come from. So
okay, all right.
So hey, don't blame the gamer. Whatever. Anyway.
Yeah.
I've got my crazy glasses on, just like Stephanie Preisner when she was doing the post-election analysis.
Yeah. I'm wearing my pink blazer.
Yes.
I remember Tamagotchis, and I'm prepared to talk about them at a moment's notice.
Yes. My Tamagotchi has died, unfortunately.
Yeah. Tamagotchis or Gigapets? That was the original Barry's versus Lions.
Yeah, I've got my butterfly hair clips on and
butterfly. I don't know where we're going to be going with this. I should have figured out some sort of structure. So last week we spoke about kind of Irish stuff. Yeah. And then there's so much stuff happening in the Middle East that it is worthy of commenting on, and especially worthy of commenting on with, I mean, I hate to put it this way, but a bit more of a jaded perspective than perhaps I'm seeing with some of the stuff that's happening in Syria. But then in the interim, obviously the stuff that with Israel pulling out their embassy in Ireland, we were going to talk about it probably in a future episode, surely. But I do think it's worth mentioning now, just because. But we'll get to all of that. So I guess we'll just start the timeline where everything starts, which is well, at least the thing that I wanted to talk about, which was Syria in general. Yeah. So they were going hey, Assad's going to be overthrown, and I was like, really? That doesn't sound likely. And then they're yeah, they're invading there, and they've made it to Damascus, and they've made it here, and they've made it okay. And now Assad is gone. I was like, he's fucking gone. Really? And then they were there's these new guys in there who sound like a Korean boy band. What is it? HTS or HST? What is it like?
Hayat Tahrir al-Sham.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. Thank you for saying that. And but the acronym for me, what is it?
HTS. Yeah, I know what you mean, because you got BTS, which is the Korean, the K-pop.
Thanks for explaining my fucking joke. Okay.
Stop, Gareth.
For the idiots in the back.
It's just the knowledge is just pouring out, okay? Yeah. And there's no stopping it,
Yeah.
So
when they have HTS in there, you're well, who are these new players in the game? Let me find out all about them. And then they were now you can just stop me. This is how I found out about it. So that's how I'm describing it, okay?
Okay.
But then they go the first warning signs for me were where the US were great job for overthrowing the dictator Assad, and I was that doesn't make me feel very good. And then when Benjamin Netanyahu goes, way to go guys for overthrow, I was that really doesn't make me feel very good. And then they go HTS was led by this guy who was in Al Qaeda and then ISIS and now this other thing, and I was now I think. You say, tell me when I'm wrong. Yeah.
No, you're not entirely wrong. Just a tiny bit. Kerman al-Julani, he's been around since the Free Syrian Army. So, quickly.
Yes, actually, that's a very good thing to do. Please try and explain Syrian Civil War. Go. You have 10 seconds. Go.
Okay, so we're starting from the Arab Spring, so that would be around February, March 2011. So inspired by the events in Egypt and Tunisia, where they ousted their dictators at the time. So Syria was no, fuck that. We don't like Assad. We've been under Assad's plural rule for maybe 30, 40 years at the time, because the Assads have been ruling Syria since 1974. Okay? And, yeah.
Sorry, I was just thinking about, was it Al-Assad? Where does the Al come into it?
That's the family name.
Yeah. I was just suddenly thinking about some Irish guy no, I don't know. I don't know Bashir, but I know Al-Assad, the uncle. Now he's a nice fella. He's not too bad now,
Well, Bashar al-Assad's father, Hafiz, and then his brother were kind of in charge of the country at some stage. I'm going a bit broad, but I just want to.
No, that's fine. Yeah.
Egypt and Syria at some stage were one country. They were called the United Arab Republic, but then eventually Syria seceded because Nasser, who was the president of Egypt at the time, was too, would you believe it? He was too, what's the word? He was too much of a dictator, because he did not want any other parties to be present in either countries. And anyway, so Hafez al-Assad, he took charge of Syria since 1974, and there, it's your usual dictatorship. People were being arrested, abducted, family members were, put in places of power. Also, something to note is that the Assads are from the Alawite ethnic minority, which is, they're not essentially Muslim because they're neither Shiites nor Sunnis. They're kind of like a thing of its own.
Can you briefly explain Shiite and Sunni? I know that sounds really stupid, but I always hear like on like the various podcasts that I listen to, that just being taken as a given that people understand what that is.
Do you want an explanation in terms of, Christians, or do you want like the proper explanation?
What do you mean?
So do you want to explain the differences between the two sects based on like, oh yeah, they're Catholic and the other ones, they're Protestant?
I was half thinking like that might be a good way to go with it, because like, sorry, what point am I even trying to make? I guess the thing about it with me,
yes,
is that I can read many articles and listen to many podcasts about the Syrian Civil War and the Irish banking crisis. And they're both things that interest me. And yet I don't get any more knowledgeable about them. I can't figure it out. There's some sort of impasse for me. So this isn't really for me. This is for other people listening, because I've had this explained to me a million times and I still do not entirely understand it. But even when you break it down like that, it's like Catholics and Protestants, it's like, okay, got it.
They're kind of, but not quite. I don't know. Like, here's like, again, another brief thing. So the Sunnis and Shiites, back then when the Prophet Muhammad died, all Muslims were one. And then I can't remember exactly what happened, but there was something about his nephew was the one who was supposed to lead the Muslims. But then they voted and they said no. So that's when the Shiites happened. They were like, no, it should be, whoever rules Muslims should be from the bloodline of Muhammad. Okay?
Okay. Yeah.
And that's how Sunnis happened, basically. Right. Yeah. They're a minority in comparison to Sunnis across the Middle East and North Africa. A lot of Sunnis consider Shiites as blasphemers and infidels because they're not following the right path. So it is in some ways kind of similar to Sunnis and Shiites. Catholics and Protestants. Yeah. In Syria, however, it's a bit different because you have Sunnis, Shiites, Druze, which are... they kind of sound like druids if you think of it, and they do live in the mountains, so make that of I don't know what you're talking about.
Drew, the only thing is, like, the first time, do you remember when, like, now it's still disputed even now, but there was, like, Israel accused Lebanon of firing a missile into some part of some occupied, I don't even know if it was occupied, but either way, a bunch of Druze were killed, like children who were in playing a game of football or something. And so Israel and the United States said that was Lebanon. And then Lebanon were like, no, it wasn't. Please come in and we welcome UN investigation into an impartial thing. We can confirm that it wasn't us. And then the US were like, nevertheless, and that was the end of that. So every so often, my kind of first introduction to Druze was a bunch of Zionists and Israelis going like, "You don't care about the Druze," and I was like, "You had to Google them probably 2 minutes ago." That's like. But the other funny thing about that, the way we brought up at the time, was also that fucking one of them, like Ben Gavir or Smotrich or one of them, showed up to the funeral of the boys who were murdered by the whatever missile, wherever it was from. I mean, you can tell where I think it's from. But he showed up and they were like, get the fuck out of here. They were raging. They'd like kicked him. He was like, leave. Yeah. So it's not like there's no love for the Druze for Israel, really, either. Or the far right in Israel, let's say.
It's a bit complicated because very, very recently, like last week, so just again, a small background about the Druze. I don't think there is much that is known about their religious beliefs because they are, I don't know.
Private, kind of.
Yeah. And I think it's either them or the Alawites because I sometimes mix them up because they're both ethnic minorities in Syria. But anyway, so the Druze kind of live in the area surrounding the Golan Heights, which is
it's illegally occupied parts of Syria, is it?
Yes, exactly. But it's illegally occupied parts of Syria and Lebanon because it kind of connects them both if you look at the map.
I'm going to repeat something that I heard before as well, which is on I might slightly jumping ahead, but just for context, this idea that Israel requires this buffer zone. They're like, we need some buffer between us and these people. And then what they'll do is they'll suddenly start settling in the buffer zone. I was like, well, now we need to expand the buffer zone out and just keep going into these territories that are not theirs and are not even like, like, I mean, I don't, they'd be able to tell you, probably I wouldn't, but like, I would have thought that like, there's this part of, this is Israel and we want like the West Bank and Gaza. And it's like, there's other people in there who have like, no, we're going like all the way to like Tehran or something. You just have this insane like expansionist program that I wouldn't even have any clue about, of like they want an insane amount of territory that they're kind of only cheekily admitting to every now and again. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, because the whole Zionist project is essentially taking the lands of, in-country lands. It's Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, and I think parts of Iraq, because that's where the original state of Israel, like back in fucking, I don't know, the Pharaoh time, who knows, is where it used to be. And like the thing about that I wanted to say about the Druze is that like I said, you're grand. They live in that pocket near the mountains of the Golan Heights, okay? And there was a number of leaders. There was a video that came out, and there were a number of leaders that I personally suspect that they're just plants, because just a very small segue, a lot of the Israelis can't speak Arabic very, very well. Like, this is something that my mum used to warn me of. But, a lot of them can speak Arabic very, very well, and they would just plant themselves to kind of, instigate people. Kind of like the CIA or whatever. Anyway, but this clip surfaced, and some Druze leaders were saying, oh no, if they want to take us, they should annex our lands, and they should take these bits, because we don't want to be with the Islamists, because we don't know how they're going to deal with this, blah, 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 blah. And so this came out, and they were discussing it on Israeli TV, because I was watching it, but anyway. And they were like, well, that would be important. We will.
Just one thing real quick. We have like one of those kind of things that you can, we have means to watch a lot of channels, let's put it that way. And Zaynab hate watches Israeli like TV programs.
Yes.
So yeah, you were seeing this on Israeli TV.
And they were showing this clip, but at the same time, the elders of the Druze communities and tribes came out and said, no, we're Syrians, we'll always be Syrian, and we cannot just allow our people to be a part of the enemy. So Of course, they were, because the people they were showing, the ones that were pro Israel, were all young, as in their age. But like the elders, obviously old people with white beards, and like what the fuck would they know? But yeah, that's kind of the thing about Druze. And there are a lot of Druze who, just because there are settlements on the border with Syria, there's a lot of Druze that are Israelis.
Yeah. Interesting.
But it's not because by choice. I mean, my mother's cousin, she's Israeli because she lives in Tel Aviv and she was born in Tel Aviv. So
yeah. But she wouldn't consider herself Israeli, would she? Or
no. But like she has a passport. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that thing. So I guess the different factions you were talking about, the Arabs, because I really want to talk about that later on, of like the people who are like wielding it and what's happening and the kind of very simplistic narrative that's being put forward to kind of prop up a certain the plans of certain people within the region. But like to go back even to what you were saying about the Arab Spring, and so you're saying, can I just like, if so the Arab Spring happens and then it kind of inspires like, okay, fuck it, let's get rid of Assad. Yes.
Do I have that right? And then a bunch of groups then, basically what it amounts to is the Syrian Civil War. Yeah?
It was the gateway into the Syrian Civil War because I think the first couple of days people were allowed to protest, and then things kind of like shit kind of hit the fan because Assad, not just like Bashar al-Assad doesn't just use security forces. They have like a small group of thugs called Shabiha.
Yeah.
Think of them as the heavies minus the, they're just in civilian attire, basically. Right. And that's when the violence started kicking in. And then people from the Syrian army decided to leave the army, and that's when they created the Free Syrian Army. Okay. And then there's a lot of and thens with this.
Yeah, I know.
Okay. As far as I remember, Free Syrian.
I don't know. Sorry, not to keep cutting across you, but also like you were at that point living in Cairo or Giza.
Yes. Yeah. But like,
I just think that would be interesting because it's like you were kind of in this, if you could call it, I mean, it's a big region, but like while all of this stuff was happening at that moment in time,
Yeah, like I think not to go on a bit, like just to go on a bit of a segue, for me, the Arab Spring was very traumatizing because like in Egypt especially, there was a lot of things that happened that kind of shaped me into the person that I am right now, just like my change in beliefs and and lack of belief in the state, because I never was a person who believed in the state even growing up because my parents never believed in the state, but like you always have that sense of fear not to talk about politics outside of the house.
Right, yeah.
Like, inside, like we'd always make fun of Mubarak in our house. We hate him. Well, yeah, we hated him because he's dead. And fucking piece of shit. Anyway, but like when you're outside, and you're talking to your classmates, you are not to say these things out loud. Like, yes. I remember one classmate of mine, she was like, who are the people that you love? And I was like, what kind of question is that? So I just waited for her to answer. And one of the things she said was like, Suzanne Mubarak, but we used to call her, like, she was colloquially known as Mama Suzanne. And I was like, I love her. I was like, I don't give a fuck. I love her too. And we were 7, And then I went home and told my mom about that. And she was like, yeah, good girl. Don't
Yeah,
say
yeah.
anything else, you know. Can I just say one anecdote that I remembered of just the amount
Sure.
of so when I was in college, I used to be one of those nerds that goes to like the Model United Nations and all that fucking nonsense. So there was one thing that I participated in that was kind of like, oh yeah, we're gonna be like the US Senate. Okay. And then a topic was brought up about a news article that came out about what would happen if Mubarak died.
Right.
And me being a college student, I'm outspoken. Here I am. So I was like, so what if he dies? You know, he's not a god. He's a person. He can die. He can get sick. And there was this one particular lad who kept looking at me and kept staring at me. And he kept following me for a while when I was in college.
Wow. Fuck.
Yeah. And he even asked for my number, but not in like a datey way.
No.
Absolutely not. Maybe he thought that I was like some sort of communist or like participating in whatever. But he was following me for a while, and he was like, hey, how about you give me your number? You know, we can talk and chat about things.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And I did give him my number, but I changed it like a week later, just out of sheer luck. But the thing is, I feel like he was probably disappointed because he thought maybe I was participating in some political things when in reality I was just hanging out with my friends and not attending any classes.
Yeah.
But like the reason why I brought this up is post Mubarak, it was found that a lot of people, the state had a lot of files concerning people.
Yeah.
And, you know, examples of these files would be Palestinians who are registered in the state. So that would be my mum. People who work for foreign networks, that'd be my dad. And also college students who would be participating in those extracurricular activities.
Yeah.
So in saying that would be just to mirror kind of a fraction of what was happening in Syria as well.
Yeah, no, but like there's a lot going on in that region, and you know, don't tell me, stop me anytime it doesn't sound like your lived experience, but like your I imagine that it's fairly intoxicating. It's like shit's going down. We're like, we could have like, there's so much change, there's so much possibility. Everybody can have a bit of this, and then like, you know, I'm only kind of referencing like Vincent Bevan's book about like, what was it? The name of it? We burn or something. You know his book?
Yeah. I have it on the bedside table because I haven't been able to read it. Yeah.
If we burn.
But
it was about like the decade of protest and how it kind of ended up resulting in the opposite of positive change. And in many instances, either lateral moves or like the dictator being replaced by another dictator, or like somebody who was worse than the previous person coming in. But like, and Occupy was around that time as well. And there was a lot of kind of feeling like, I mean, I know it's not the same at all, but like when people are like taking up, pitching tents in like, you know, public space.
Yeah.
And being like, I own this. And then suddenly your brain, if like me as like a kind of late teens, early 20s, just going like, holy shit. Yeah, we do own this, don't we? This is crazy. You know, these things that you take for granted, and you're suddenly getting activated and kind of feeling very excited about this. And
it was.
So yeah.
Like it was a very exhausting period of my life as well, because I was, not to praise myself for anything, but I was one of the people who were like completely pro, what we called it a revolution at the time. Yeah. But, you know, in hindsight, whatever. It was just so upsetting because every time the 25th of January comes on in the calendar, I'm like, and you see people on Facebook or like Twitter just resharing some of those beautiful moments. You're like, fuck those people. Not
I
the
know,
people
yeah.
not the people who are resharing, but like the amount of discussions and fights I've had with people online about the importance of doing this and how we should rise up, because the unfairness and just the amount of injustice in the country was just insane. And I've had college colleagues or friends, well, they're former friends now, who were like, well, he's an old man, why don't we just give him a chance? It's like, are you for fucking real? He's been given a chance since fucking 8.
This is Mubarak or this is Nasser? Or
No,
not
this is
Nasser. Sorry, Sisi. Sorry.
No, Sisi I think Sisi will deserve another episode.
I mean, I'm getting lost. We're getting lost in the weeds even talking about just this bit. Do you know what I mean? Like,
well,
we're trying to... Go on, sorry.
Yeah, it was Mubarak, because he was in power for about 30-something years. Like, I think he was the same age, if not older, than Biden at the moment. He was like 84 when he was kicked out.
Yeah.
And there was a lot of violence happening. I personally wanted to go, but of course my parents wouldn't. Like, by like live ammunition, getting the people that, you know, work the camels near the pyramids, getting them to beat up people. I mean, I digress. Like, this is just kind of like to showcase the level of violence that would happen in these situations. We've had I know a couple of people that got their eyes taken out by snipers.
Oh. Yeah.
Sorry to bring down the mood. You know, I know people that were disappeared for a while and then returned, or they've never returned because they're in prison now.
Yeah.
But yeah, like, it was just, you also have state media, you know, instigating people against the people on the street, you know, saying things that they're foreign agents, or, you know, they've been getting paid from the US and all of that fucking nonsense. And I'm assuming that it kind of is what happened in Syria as well.
Well, I mean, it's just part of the same sort of thing, where there's like this idea of like, okay, we're going to, you know, finally rise up and do something. And then, you know, in Egypt, you're like met with a lot of violent resistance, but you kind of achieve certain aims. But then it turns out that the person who replaced Mubarak was kind of and we'll have to talk about Sisi visiting Ireland, or Simon Harris meeting them anyway. We'll talk about that later on. I've written it down to come back to. But I just think it was important to be like, you were there during the Arab Spring. These are the vibes. This is what the news that people were consuming, that they were seeing. And then the uprising sort of happened. But then they're either like, you know, violently suppressed in a horrific way, or there's like maybe some successes, but they don't feel like wins after the fact. And
I mean, they were successful in the moment, but
this is Egypt.
Yes.
Yeah.
At the moment, like at the time, Mubarak is gone. Now what? Army. Yeah. The army is going to take charge. And there was a very brief period of time where people were like, "Oh, you cannot insult the army. We salute." Yeah. Kind of like this American mentality.
Jingoism. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And looking at the troops, we salute our troops. Yeah. That fucking shit. But then
I love the stuff with the military now, because we'll watch some Egyptian channels as well, and then they'll be like, look at our jets flying overhead, look at our fucking soldiers lining up, and then you see what's happening in Gaza, and it's like, lads, you know, if you want to use those at any moment in time, you're perfect. But obviously the thing is, it's such a joke. It's like, because they can't use them. So then it's like, why the fuck do you have an army at all? Do you know what I mean? Like, you're not prepared. You're not like, do you know what I'm saying? It's like, I guess it's like, it acts as a sort of deterrent, but does it really? Because they're just running ramshot all over the fucking region, do you know?
The thing is, so in the 80s, Egypt signed a peace treaty with Israel.
Yeah.
during the time of Sadat. And I'm not talking about the rapper. Sorry.
Okay. Is he a well-known rapper, Sadat?
I know that he appeared on a few tracks with the Notorious B.I.G. That's how I know him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm thinking of Sadat X.
That's him.
Is that the same guy?
Yeah.
Oh, well, then I didn't know he was on... I only knew him from... He was on a Handsome Boy modelling school song.
Oh. No, but
and he did an amazing song called... what's the one about the summer? It's all like having a barbecue. I was loving it. Anyway.
Yeah, hello, man. Yo, throw the ball, yo, man. Throw the ball. I'm not gonna take it. Makes a dream come true. Make a dream come true. Throw the ball, man. Stop playing. Throw the ball, yo.
But yeah, his name is he named himself after the president. Did you know that?
Yeah, Anwar Sadat.
Yes, there you go. Anyway, so yeah, he signed the peace treaty with Israel. I don't remember the date. It was either the it was in the 70s. And that kind of made a lot of countries in the Middle East, be on shaky ground with Egypt because they saw that signing a peace treaty with Israel means that you're betraying the cause. Syria especially was pretty upset. They were pretty pissed with that. So Assad Senior, the dad, I'm not entirely sure about the timeline, but that's when suicide bombings started happening.
Oh yeah, I heard that. Yeah, I was in an Adam Curtis documentary.
Yeah, I read it in a book. Anyway,
more legitimate.
Yeah. A lot of because it was also a few years before the Iranian Islamic Revolution. So a lot of these things kind of alienated Egypt from that part of the world just because of having the peace treaty.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's get back to Syria. So I just wanted to ask about the different groups. So what we've talked about there is essentially the Arab Spring brought a lot of uprising and kind of hope and this idea that things could be different. A bunch of people started to rise up and then in many cases were brutally suppressed by various military groups. But then what this led to in Syria was essentially a civil war. Well, it is a civil war. So I just wanted to know the people who were involved. Now, you've mentioned some people already, which is the Free Syrian Army, which is an offshoot of the Syrian army who went against the government. Is that fair? No?
Yes.
And then there's what are the other groups then? And even if we've mentioned them before, please say them again, just for clarity.
Okay. Oh, God. So...
You at least looked up the Wikipedia page. It's Jesus.
Yeah, the Free Syrian Army is also, it's not just the army per se. It's a lot of armed individuals who decided to join the Free Syrian Army to free Syria, okay? They are essentially the military wing, if you want to call it as such, of the Syrian opposition at the time. Mm-hmm. And as far as I remember, and I could be possibly wrong, the first thing they did was, of course, they changed the colors of the flag. Because the Syrian flag is, it was a red, white and blue, just like the Egyptian flag and the Yemeni flag and all those. And now it's green, white and black. Oh, I meant black to say. And the stars in the middle are red. But anyway, so the Free Syrian Army has a whole bunch of groups. So you have so HTS, I think they used to be called Ahrar al-Sham before, and now they're called Hayat Tahrir al-Sham. And then there was Jabhat al-Nusra, which are ISIS. Who else?
Even just, I know this is stupid, but can you explain ISIS as well? I know it's stupid. I'm just saying. I would when you're in the West and you hear this stuff, it's like ISIS, a bunch of fucking bad lads, like who were responsible for various attacks and wherever.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I don't remember how ISIS came about, but I can tell you that ISIS and Al Qaeda are different.
Yeah.
So they're completely different. Even ideologically, I know they're representing very extreme views of Islam, but like I think they have a few minor differences with their ideologies that I cannot remember now.
I'm sorry, I'm just looking up the flag for ISIS. I'd entirely forgotten about. If you look up like Islamic State on Wikipedia, then they have like a picture of the ISIS flag. Have you ever played that game? Where is it? I'm going to find out the name of it. Baba Is You. Anyway, if you look up Baba Is You, I was like, it looks like a puzzle in Baba Is You.
Well, because I know the ISIS flag, and I can tell you why it's like this.
Okay.
It's based on the ring that the Prophet used to wear, so that was kind of her signature.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Anyway, Baba Is You.
This looks like a baby did it.
Well, it was like the 6th century, Gareth. They were, yeah. But anyway, what was the question?
So we're talking about the different factions. We got Syrians, the Free Syria Army. We got Islamic State, ISIS.
Yeah. So for a while, okay, all those guys were together. Yeah. All right.
As part of the Syrian Free Army. The
Free Syrian Army, yes.
Okay.
Yeah. But then they got involved in some other shit with the Kurds and the Yazidis. So
okay, fuck it. All right.
Because the whole thing was like, oh yeah, we need Sunni Islam to be the main thing that rules these lands. And that's how kind of ISIS kind of started. Because you have the Kurds who are like, I don't know, I don't even know what kind of Islam they have over there.
Hey, what the fuck? What is this, a freaking leftist book club?
I don't know.
See what I'm saying, man? The fucking like, oh, I'm an anarcho-syndical capitalist. Or well, that's actually something else. That's to do with the right, I think. I don't know. Anyway, the point is like, yeah, cool. It just seems like a lot of...
It wasn't like, it's a lot. Anyway, so you have all these groups, okay?
Yeah.
The thing in Syria kind of dampened a little bit because they were in, like, most of the stuff was happening in Aleppo and Idlib and not in Damascus. And then you have the Russians. They got involved because they were supporting Assad. Basically, the Free Syrian Army and the Sunnis, they kind of had Idlib and Aleppo. They were their their headquarters.
Strongholds.
That's it. Thank you. That was it. Yeah. But until very recently, like I'm gonna fast forward just to kind of go into the current moment. What happened?
So like the way it seems alright. So like that happened, this uprising happened, then all of these like different splinter groups with different interests were kind of warring against each other within Syria, and then essentially, which also like resulted in a massive refugee crisis.
Yes.
And then it seems to have been on stalemate for the past few years.
Yeah,
basically, like maybe there was like attacks happening, but it was almost like some sort of equilibrium had been met. You know what I mean? There's just people. It just wasn't escalatory in the same way that it was before. Is that fair?
Yes. Because you also have Turkey as well getting involved and funding and and also Turkey would benefit from that because they don't want a lot of Syrians running across the border. I think it's fair to say all of that.
And can I ask as well? I mean, this is also like a really simplistic question to ask, but like, is there any point where it was like somebody in this group was like the ideal outcome for, like, you know, I guess I'll call it the left. Do you know what I mean? Like, or some like progressive movements, you know, where it's not like, do you know what I'm getting at? Where it's like, it's not like a bunch of people going like, no, I want to be the dictator now. Do you know? Was there a positive outcome of any of the factions involved in this civil war at that time, you know, that you might have been like, you know, for want of a better word, rooting for, you know?
I think initially I was rooting for the Free Syrian Army at the start. And then it kind of just got dominated by the Salafists, or like
Right.
yeah. Because I mean, from 2015 till maybe 2018, this whole thing was just a complete clusterfuck.
Yeah. Okay.
Because it was mostly ISIS shit, okay, and I think that was the main, like, they were the main players at the time, and then there was the whole thing with them kidnapping ethnic minorities, Yazidis, and enslaving them, and all of that shit. So when Al-Julani came back, because I knew him as, you know, at the time I was working at Facebook, and he was one of the terrorists on our list. Himself and the Free Syrian Army were considered terrorists at the time. So when he kind of made a comeback, like, I would say maybe, it was early this month, wasn't it?
Ilani.
Yeah.
So can you explain who he is?
So he is... Okay, so Julani is not his real name. He...
Oh, yeah.
Okay, like, when people join fighters, it was kind of like it's his alias. Okay, so they usually would take up names inspired by the good old days of jihad back in whatever, you know, when Islam was
olden
still
times, man.
Yes,
you know?
yes. So they take names inspired by the names of the time. So he was called, I think he's called Julani because he was from somewhere near Golan Heights. Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so he's so can you tell us like the factions that he was involved in Syria, and like where he kind of, not to make it too long, but you know what I'm getting at, where like what's his, like, you know, imagine like you're following like a sports team, freaking sports ball,
So
and then you're like, yeah, he played for these guys, and now he's playing for these guys, you know?
So he was the captain of HTS when, or he was the lead singer of HTS.
Okay, that's not football. Go on.
But because HTS are a K-pop band.
Oh yeah. Oh no, you don't need to confuse it even more. Okay.
Okay. Anyway. Right.
Just give me a potted history of this fucker.
Sorry. Okay, so he was the captain of HTS back when they were called a bunch of other things like Jabhat Fath al-Sham, Jabhat al-Nusra, what else was he? Ahrar al-Sham. He was the main guy of this, okay? Even his Wikipedia page says that he was the emir, which kind of means the prince of HTS. So he's been the lead, like, he used to be like second in command, and now he's promoted to be the leader. He's been the leader since 2017.
Okay.
Next question. What was it?
Next question. I guess it was just like, where does he sit? No, whatever. Do I even, you know, only think you kind of said it best when it's like a cluster. I don't want to be like, oh, it's complicated, so it's not worthy of our attention. It's not that.
It genuinely is complicated.
I know, but like, you want to be like, you know, I would like to be more knowledgeable about it, but I just kind of can't keep up, and then I can't really keep track of the various players. But like, ultimately, what it is like some guy who's part of. Here's how I read it personally. I mean, I'm just repeating what I said at the start. Assad is like ousted. Oh, by who? By this guy. And I was like, this seems like a lateral move. It doesn't really feel like things are going to get better or worse, you know? I mean, they could fucking very easily get worse, but I mean, that's just been par for the course for ages, you know? And then they were pretty bad under Assad anyway, but like ultimately, like the whole thing is like, you know, it just feels impenetrable. Like impossible to figure out what's going on and how to resolve it without like a bunch of people just fucking dying for absolutely no reason.
Yes. I mean, just listening to what he says does not put my heart at ease, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, economically, they want to go to you want to move to a more capitalist model of like a free market.
I was surprised. I mean, like, it was really funny thinking, and again, correct me if I'm just oversimplifying or saying something, but essentially people who the West would deem as terrorists, okay?
Yes.
Now walking into political office and just like putting on suits and going like, no, the banks have nothing to fear from us. And then everybody in the West going like, great news, everybody. And then I was reminded of like Sinn Féin, where like you know, throughout the debate stage with throughout the debates during the election, everybody was like, Sinn Féin can't be trusted. Sinn Féin are terrorists, and now those same people are going like, I'm very happy to hear that HTS have taken over in Syria. You're like, this is the same shit, and it's also like the thing that we referenced on a previous podcast. Just kind of end of history comes back with a fucking vengeance, where like now everybody's singing from the same hymn sheet of neoliberalism. It's like, I know what costume I have to put on to get your acceptance, and it's just disgusting that it seems to work, where like this guy comes in and suddenly it's like, you know, I'm talking about like shares and quarterly earnings and, you know, people having to tighten their belt, and it's like, phew, that's a fucking Arab we can get on board with. Thank you very much, you know.
Yeah, because like I first of all, I saw him wearing the not Che Guevara, Fidel Castro olive green shirt, and I was like, oh, okay, I see what you're doing. And you know, previously he would have been opposed to the US and any sort of foreign interference. I don't know if they're saying the same thing now.
I would wager not, because
probably
like
not, because they'd be like, they'd use the diplomatic phrasing of we're kind of open into, you know, getting experts' opinions and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
The other thing as well is that like, I don't know, like for a person who was a part of a group that allegedly hated the West so much and any foreign interference, like I don't like the whole change was very quick and very I found it very, very surprising. And I hate thinking in that way, but like the timing was also quite strange.
I know.
To me, because I think it was immediately after Lebanon signed the ceasefire, which I don't know anymore if it's still ongoing or
ceasefire. What an interesting.
Or if Israel decided to, you know, be like, oh no, they've broken the ceasefire a few times, so we're cancelling it.
I love when they do the ceasefire and it's like, so the ceasefire is that you cease fire and you cease hostilities and we fire upon you.
Or like you cease Full stop.
Yeah.
I don't want to see you.
You cease, we'll fire. That's what it is, huh?
Very
We did it.
good.
We got there in the end.
Very good.
But like they so I mean, so that happened. But all this shit that's going on, the past year, and I was also reminded of like, okay, all right, so I hate to keep going back and trying to just figure out the chain of events, like what we've spoken about, just so that like I can feel like we have given it a fair stab, as opposed to just doing what everybody else does, where it's like, I don't know what to tell you. This shit is just a very complicated, and there seems to be a bunch of like minor yet significant differences between each faction, although there's none of them that I would be particularly happy about taking control, and them taking control, just like every which way there is a bunch of people who are dying, and it's not good. And
sorry, I don't know if you've ever watched or listened to their spokesperson. His name is
HTS.
Yeah, or like he's now the spokesperson of the government. His name is Obaida Oth.
Yeah.
And he is like, he's doing I mean, they all do it, but I felt him extremely incompetent for someone who just, has that vigor from a revolution or whatever. Everybody like disappointing you from the fucking like, we're gonna do some shit, and then all of a sudden it's like they're putting on the fucking suits and going like, hey, great, we did it, and now we're here, and now like, I don't know, in 5 years' time we'll have austerity like everybody else. I don't know, all the shit that you associate with the functioning Western governments, Yeah, like there was that clip that I shared with you, but you probably wouldn't have understood it anyway.
All right, thanks very much. No, I probably wouldn't have, but go on, yeah.
Because it was in Arabic, so joke's on you.
Oh yeah, that's what. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, and I think I spoke to you about it. Like, I personally hate these kinds of questions anyway, but like it's just about, okay, so you have these people who kind of look like they have the look of extreme Islamists, with the trimmed beards and just this whole thing, and the questions were about what's going to happen to women in Syria.
I know,
yeah, and the reason why I hate these questions, first of all, is that I find them slightly Islamophobic, just because. Yeah. Even if the people who were asking the questions were Lebanese, I still I don't know, it's just very, very pointed, let's say. I mean, honestly, your man, I don't know, did not come out of this interview as anything, really.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, it kind of backfired because, the questions were, so what's going to happen to Syrian women who, judges? Are they going to continue to be judges? Or are they going to, and he was like, we're not entirely sure because sometimes, we need to focus on women and their biological nature and how, yeah, their biological nature would not interfere with the type of work they are doing. So, of course, women would be important educators and teachers. But also, we believe that women should play parts in society that are compliant or that will go well with their, and it's like, okay. Another question they asked was about mixed beaches and women.
Okay, that's good. Nice, yeah.
And
are you talking about like whether men and women can be on the same beach?
Yes, they asked.
That's literally what they asked.
Yes, because there are beaches in certain parts of Syria that are mixed, And are women going to be free to wear what they want on the beach?
I think also the thing about these questions is it always serves to be like affirming a narrative, you know? So again, like I'll say this real quick, all right?
Yeah, go
Arab
for it.
Spring happens, a bunch of people start to like rise up, okay?
Yeah.
Violently suppressed by the military. In Syria, there is like multiple different factions violently being oppressed by a dictator like Assad, okay? And then there's just been stalemate for the past while, and now what's changed is basically October 7th, okay?
Yeah.
And also Russia and being preoccupied with Ukraine. A lot of their allies of Syria and Assad kind of not being there to like back him up, essentially. And what also has happened is to my knowledge, what am I doing here? Something about Assad. I was going to say something about October 7th. Oh yeah, I wanted to just say this thing real quick. I meant to be addressing the questions asked by the media. I'm just writing that down so we come back to it. Mm-hmm. But essentially what ends up happening is under Trump and maybe even under like Obama and then eventually Biden, when is the Abraham Accords? Like, where does that sort of start?
I actually don't know what the Abraham Accords are.
You don't know what the Abraham... So I have it open here on fucking Wikipedia.
Yeah.
The Abraham Accords are bilateral agreements of Arab-Israeli normalization signed between Israel and the United Arab Emirates and between Israel and Bahrain on September 15th, 2020. So that would be the Trump administration, okay?
Oh.
So there's a lot of like all of these kind of Arab states. So the signatories are Israel, Bahrain, United Arab Emirates, Morocco, and Sudan, okay? And what I heard, and I'm open to correction, possibly not from you, even though you didn't know the Abraham Accords, what the fuck? No, is that
I'm sorry, there was a pandemic, okay?
Yeah, I had a lot going on, all right? Yeah. So what happens is Sinwar, RIP. Head of Hamas for a brief period. What would you call him? A high-ranking member of Hamas, anyway. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
He, in 2019 or 2018, when was the March of Return?
I think it was 2018, because it would be 1948, 100 years.
Yeah, March of Return. I'm Googling it, but do you want to explain it if you remember? 2018 to 2019 Gaza border protests were a series of demonstrations held each Friday on the Gaza Strip near the Gaza-Israeli border from 30th of March 2018 until 27th of December 2019, in which Israeli snipers killed a total of 223 Palestinians. The demonstrators demanded that the Palestinian refugees must be allowed to return to lands that they were displaced from in what is now Israel. So essentially what they were doing is a bunch of Palestinians were like walking toward the border non-violently, a non-violent protest, and the Israelis were constantly just picking them off by snipers. They were doing the same to fucking journalists, medics, anything. The usual shit.
The usual, yeah.
The thing that defined it as well is that a lot of Israeli snipers were getting their jollies by shooting off the kneecaps of a bunch of people, making it so they could never walk again, obviously. But there was like a number of like Israeli snipers who were kind of boasting about the amount of Palestinians that they'd crippled. So anyway, Sinwar was involved in this and kind of believed at one point in a peaceful kind of right to resistance. And he was essentially like, no, these people don't understand anything but violence. The only thing that we can do is respond in violence. And so the thing that prompted it is there was an incredibly violent year for Palestinians in 2023 leading up to October 7th. There was also Netanyahu appearing at the UN with like, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, a map of Greater Samaria that he was saying that he was like, it was basically like, anyway, here's a chart of Israel. And then they were like, whoa, what the fuck is that? You have this huge like map of like all the territory that you're wanting to conquer. And he's like, huh? Oh, right. Sorry. I had no idea. And it coincided with the Abraham Accords, or like, you know, like it's to be taken in partnership with the Abraham Accords, where it's this idea of a softening of relationships between a large chunk of the Arab countries with Israel, okay? And
Yes.
the entire goal is basically trade, money, all of that lovely kind of
Yeah. Relationship.
Western bullshit that we, have, I guess, given up resisting. Money, the spice must flow. Okay,
Yeah.
actually, that's kind of, I don't know whether that's racist. But anyway,
money
you get what I'm
and the
saying.
power and the money, you know?
Yeah, but ultimately what ends up happening is like Gaza is slowly falling off the agenda, even though they're having an incredibly bad time of it. And so Alaska Flood was this idea like, we're going to go and attack these kibbutzes and we're going to attack these military bases and installations. And we're just going to have this big, big demonstration of power to show we're still here.
Yeah.
And then on the day they head over, there is a music festival happening next to a concentration camp.
Yeah.
And they're like, it seems like Hamas were even like surprised with like the lack of resistance that they got on the day. Okay.
Yeah.
And then when you take into account the amount of people, I pointed it out a million times. You've got guys coming over on homemade hang gliders, and then it's like, 1,200 people were killed, and it's like, I'm just saying, there's one side that has all of the automatic weaponry going, and video footage of all their soldiers told to like, doesn't matter, just point and shoot, fucking go nuts, okay?
Yeah.
There's like, ultimately like, but anyway, certainly Gaza is back on people's minds. Then people are talking about it. People are saying like, what the fuck is going on? We need to do something, especially with the Israeli response escalated. Mm-hmm. And so I think that it is back on. They were like, we need to show what's happening here, and we need to, I don't know, just we're not going to die on our knees is essentially what it was. Okay.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like they're doing this big pointing at see, and then the West, and by this I mean Western governments and kind of Western business interests are like, yeah, we see and we don't care. We don't give a shit, okay? And people are out in the streets, people are demanding, people are trying their best to make stuff happen, but it's like, the powers that be are seeing all of this, but are not moved, and they're not doing anything. And Israel's response for the past year has been like, almost like,
just violence.
It's been violence, but when you think about stuff like, there's a Hamas base underneath that hospital, but actually also we didn't even bomb it. That was like them, probably they did it, and then they destroy every single hospital in Gaza. And then it's like, it's them seeing what they can get away with, and then being almost shocked themselves as well of like, fuck, like they're really going to let us do it all, aren't they? To the point where it's like, what, you're going into Lebanon, you're going into Lebanon, Syria, Jordan, you've made moves towards Iran, and they've just gone mental. And Biden's White House is like, well, I wish there was something we could do, but unfortunately there isn't, even though Israel would stop existing tomorrow if we stop giving them money. And we're not even going to condition the aid and money that we're going to give them. And so anyway, that's what's happened. And this all leads up to now where, like, these guys just roll into Syria. Assad has nobody kind of backing him anymore. And it kind of, again, it's just another example of, fuck, I didn't think it would be this easy. I didn't think that, like, they've kind of taken over. And then Netanyahu's like, great job, guys. Great that Assad is gone.
Yeah.
And the thing is meant to be like, are you making the right noises about what you'll let us do? And then they'll destroy the Syrian Navy. And then
they
go like,
destroyed all their I think it was around 70% of the Syrian army's military capabilities. So it's everything essentially.
Yeah. And then they ask HTS, they're like, well, what do you fucking think of that? And he's like, well, it's difficult, it's complicated, our partners in the just like, it's like, I hate to be like this, okay? 'Cause I don't want to be drawing this comparison, because the way that Arabs are depicted is always like savage fucking animals, okay?
Yes.
there's so many things I want to say because there's so many things that have come up in the past week that have been so strange. But I just want to get to this thing about like fucking Animal Farm, okay? Where this idea of looking at pig to man and man to pig and not knowing the difference. Do you know what I mean? Where you have these kind of like guys who are like fucking like terrorists, resistance fighters, I don't know, whatever the fuck you want to say. And then immediately they have a suit on, and now it's like again watching somebody do an impression of some Western politician, like some guy, some guy pretending to be like von der Leyen or something. It's fucking weird, like, man, isn't it? It's just, I don't know.
I mean, like it's a very just the cognitive dissonance of it all.
Yeah.
Because I would see my Syrian friends, including those who used to support Assad, I should add.
You were friends with these people? Wow.
Well, they're acquaintances, okay? But like a friend of mine who has participated in the... Like, I think he was with the Free Syrian Army and he arrived here as a refugee and, like, a great guy. Anyway, and I was happy for him for being so happy because for him it was something that... Because I know that I think his family members, some of them still have PTSD because they were, you know, escaping or just fleeing through woods in different kind of settings and weathers, you know, and climates actually. So I was happy for him. I was happy to see him happy, just, you know, holding the Free Syrian flag and the Free Syria flag, and you know, so that was great. I was also confused by some of the people that were, I would say, I wouldn't call them staunch Assadists, but I know for a fact that they were Assadists. We're also happy that he was gone, but hey, you know, no judging. A lot of judging. But the cognitive dissonance comes from just seeing, you know, like you said, you've got the US, Israel, von der fucking Leyen. Mm-hmm. All of these big names that for the past year or so, or for more than a year, we've been associating them with the worst people in the world and how they are contributing to and continuing to contribute to the plight of the Palestinians. You know, and then I'm not saying that Assad was a great guy. I mean, he is a piece of shit as well, but it was just too weird and too quick, and just very, I don't know.
I mean, like there was a thing that I saw as well, and I know it's a fucking bit of a tangent, but hopefully this will, like, there's just no way to fully articulate it. It is such a weird, mad, confusing, fucked up situation. So I think all we can do is like reference things that kind of help us illustrate our feelings at the moment in time. Yeah. But I just remembered, do you remember I was telling you, so like your man Owen Hayes, who was in the Soc Dems, and then he had shares with Palantir. Yeah. And then he was like, whoopsie daisy, I made a mistake. And it turns out I lied. And so anyways, somebody was pointing out online, like he got rid of Chris Andrews. Chris Andrews was a Sinn Féin. He was previously in Fianna Fáil and then went to Sinn Féin at some point in like the 2010s or something. I don't know when it was. It was recent enough. But anyway, he's a very outspoken supporter of Palestine. And apparently he was on an aid flotilla to Gaza at one point. I don't know when that was. But anyway, somebody put a picture underneath it and it was like, this Chris Andrews, and it's a picture of him from 2009 shaking hands with Assad, do you know?
Oh, yeah. And
I just remember feeling like, man, like like, oh yeah, Assad bad now. So obviously you're like have a photograph with him. That means it's bad. But in 2009, it was like Assad was the guy. Oh, he was, whenever Biden has to head to Saudi Arabia and it's like, unfortunately, I just have to do business with these awful fucking people. But, I don't know how I got here. I don't know how this happened. The Americans, the stumbling empire. But that included and then fucking Saddam as well. Saddam Hussein, any of these fucking people. Do you know what I mean? Where it's just like, it's just this complicated thing where it's like these people are okay until they're not. And this is an example of it being these people are not okay until they are. So suddenly this guy who's like public enemy number one is like, now I'm leading Syria. Okay, I have two questions for you. Where do you stand on Israel? And, are you prepared to toe the line in these economic ways or whatever the fuck? Do you know what I'm getting at? And then he's like, Israel, none of my business, and then fucking the money stuff, I'll do whatever the fuck you want, okay? And then that's it.
Yeah, another thing, just about that 2009
picture with the sad.
Yeah, it's like you probably didn't even know what Syria is in 2009. You fucking I don't mean to be. This is going to sound very condescending, and it is, but I kind of almost know for a fact that a lot of people did not have any knowledge of Syria pre the refugee crisis.
No, absolutely not.
And it is like you said, a lot of these people, you kind of go you get invited to things and you just go. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're a politician, and it's like, okay, I'm going to go over to this embassy and shake hands and talk with this person.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that guy sucks. It's like, yeah, he does suck. I mean, I don't know what do you want me to tell you?
Why aren't we doing this with Simon Harris and Cece, for example?
This is it. This is exactly it. It's just this thing where it's like, and then these guys become the villains, and then it means everything else is it's just so exhausting, and it's such a mess at the moment as well. It's because they have this the narrative is simplistic when they want it to be, and then complicated when they don't want it to be. Do you know what I'm getting? Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of these dictators in the West kind of get painted as cartoonish villains.
Yeah.
Like your man from Dick Dastardly. That's how they all are,
Yeah.
They all have these schemes and plots, and they're all cartoonish villains with their mustaches. And you can say mustaches because, Arabs, hairy, they have a lot of facial hair. Anyway.
Oh my goodness.
I can say that.
Okay, all right.
You can remove that if you want.
No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. But it's simple example, Saddam, you're watching movies from the 90s and the 80s, okay? When,
Naked Gun.
I have not watched it. But all the Naked Gun, Hot Shots, all of these.
Saddam.
Yeah. And, after George, was it W or H that turned
W.
on? Yeah. After W turned on Saddam, he was free game. Same with Gaddafi. In fucking Back to the Future,
Is he in Back to the Future? Gaddafi?
He wasn't, but in the start, he was like, "Oh, I'm being chased by Libyan rebels."
Oh, terrorists.
Yeah, Libyan terrorists. Because it was after that plane, Lock Kirby, that was
Lockerbie. Yeah.
Sorry.
No, you're right.
Yeah.
It just doesn't make any and then. Yeah, can I bring up another thing? It's related but different.
Yeah.
Which is the West's response insofar as, and I'm including Israel in this as well. Okay. So here's this other chain of events. Putin's genocidal regime where he invades Ukraine. Okay. He's worse than Hitler. He's fucking evil, okay? Have you seen what he's doing? Have you seen the kids that he's killed? Have you seen the people that they've imprisoned and tortured and murdered? Okay?
Yeah, poor fucking Navalny.
Then, yeah. I mean, no comment. And then in once October 7th happens, and then the ramping up of like, we're destroying hospitals, we're raping people to death, we have like all this insane stuff, and then it's like, that doesn't exist. Actually, it's complicated. Actually, it's not a genocide because genocide is defined by, and all of these different things. Okay, cool, not cool. But I'm just saying that's what the West is like. It's like this weird, like, they're just like looking right through it. They don't see it. They don't understand it. They just come back to beheaded babies and coordinated Hamas rape gangs, which never happened.
Can I use an example from my own personal history?
Please.
Yeah. So back in 2013, post Mubarak, just bringing it back to the people who were in charge were the Muslim Brotherhood. Okay, and so the president was a Muslim Brotherhood leader, and the parliament was also a lot of Muslim Brotherhood people, and like the backlash from the media was insane. Like, there was a lot of things, just constant criticism. I didn't like him, but not for, I don't know. He was fine as a person. You're also kind of still young, and you cannot form your own ideas about things, but he was whatever. Like, people actually had freedom of speech. But anyway, in July 3rd, 2013, yes, it was 2013, people took to the streets after being instigated by state media and several other outlets, including the Arabs' new hero, Bassem Youssef, okay?
Yeah. I love it. I love it. By the way, Zaynab, like, every time Bassem Youssef appears on things, he's becoming like a liberal darling now, and not even liberal. I mean, because liberals would be like anti-Gaza, really. But all of these people like being like sharing this clip of this guy, and then Zaynab will just be like, "Fuck this man! He betrayed the Arab Spring."
He is an absolute rat. Okay, like, he is a fucking narc, if anything. But like, I could get into that later. But anyway, like, he was one of the mouthpieces for the state, constantly criticizing Morsi was his name, okay? People took to the streets, blah, 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 blah. Yay, we removed the fucking dictator, okay?
Yeah.
And I remember the US, and because I was watching CNN at the time, and I was still in Egypt, FYI. For all our listeners, CNN was calling it a military coup. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
Okay, because it was Sisi who gave the ultimatum, and but like, it was, now in hindsight, I know for a fact that it was backed by the US. Okay, because Morsi was very much anti-Israel, and he was willing to cancel the Camp David of the 70s. And he was very much pro-Hamas.
Right.
And of course, the US did not like that.
Yeah.
So it was just one of those things where it's like, oh, that's a military coup. And then I think Obama was the president in 2012 or 2013.
Yeah, he was.
Yes. Because Trump came in 2016. Yeah? Yeah.
2016, 2017, yeah.
Yeah, and Obama will come out and be like, this is a military coup, Egypt is going into a dangerous territory.
Yeah.
And that was the thing that state media kept amping up, which is that Sisi stood up and told the US to fuck off.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
Like, this is like from memory.
Yeah.
He was the lion that saved Egypt from the talons, and that was the word that they used, the talons of Hamas and the US and Israel.
That's, this just so,
like,
Hamas, US and Israel. It's
like your man, the president, Morsi, the one who got removed, he was, like he was in prison. He died in prison, FYI, a couple of years ago, for collaborating with Israel and Hamas. That was one of the charges at the same time.
That's bizarre.
At the same fucking time, you know?
I mean, it's just, again, it's just, it makes no sense. I mean, like, yeah, you're right. Because this is exactly like, so I'm going like, okay, you got Ukraine, you got like Putin, evil. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You've got, all right, Gaza genocide. It's complicated. Like, it's actually, the Israelis are, you know, it's just Netanyahu. And then, but unfortunately, we still have to talk to him, but also it's complicated. Or not really, do you know what I mean? There's this whole kind of ambiguity around it that is not present there. And now with this thing with Syria, it's just like, yeah, a bunch of resistance fighters like overthrew this Arab dictator. Like, so now all of a sudden it's like they've got their own little potted version. It's our own Gaza at home. Do you know what I mean? We have Gaza at home.
Yeah.
It's called like Syria.
Yeah, we don't need to order Gaza on a Friday. I can make Gaza at home now. Sorry.
But do you see what I'm saying? Where it's like the way that Netanyahu is responding to it is now like the way that people are when they talk about like the Israeli genocide of the Palestinians. It's like the West and like all these people are finally going like, you know, they're I don't know. It's just that. I mean, is that leapfrogging over the biggest event of our time to then, you know, do selective condemnation of this other guy. Another thing, anyway, whatever.
Is like I truly believe the horror stories coming out of Syria, like the people, like I truly believe them because, like I said, I have my own experience and what I've heard and what I've read to draw upon. But the other thing that I just had this thought, this is fresh, new, is that the focus on these crimes of Assad, especially that he was quite an opposing force to Israel. And, you know, also with collaborating with Iran and all of that. To me, it kind of feels like, okay, so these are the people that oppose Israel. Look at what they're doing to their own people, okay? You know? And so, like, imagine what they could possibly do to us, you know, like these fucking monsters, these animals.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Okay. So there was actually 2 points that I was trying. It was one that I was trying to make before with like listing off all of those events. I kind of got lost then when I was trying to compare it with just the Western response to what's happening in Syria. But I was like, so Israel pulled out their embassy from Ireland, okay? And there's a bunch of anti-Irish racism coming from a number of Zionist accounts. But one of the things that they said was like, oh, you know, they're trying to have a go at Israel for committing a genocide, but where's their condemnation of Assad? Okay. So then people are obviously pointing out that the intervention in the International Criminal Court or the IJJ, ICJ, whatever the fuck, the reason is because Palestine is a member of that court, which means that there is a case to be answered for and they can make an intervention, the Irish. They can't make a case against Assad in the courts because they're not members in the courts, Syria, okay? Yeah. But that doesn't mean, obviously, that people in Ireland haven't condemned Assad, which they have. But it doesn't matter to Israelis, whatever. So I'm looking down, doing my usual thing of like reading the comments and just make myself sick. And one of the comments goes like, 100,000 people in a pit. Ireland can't see that for what it is. And I was like, what are they talking about? And I was suddenly like, wait a minute. They're talking about, I thought for a second, are they talking about the 100,000 dead people in a pit in Gaza? And I was like, no, they're talking about it in Syria. Do you know?
Yeah, it was
and
the people.
So like,
It was
that's like that. Yeah.
Sorry. Please.
No, that's the point is what I'm trying to get at. It's just this thing where it's like, now they care about it. And now they have an example of like, you know, I don't know. They never tire anyway. The Zionists, they're living in this kind of constantly disgusting world of like hate and contempt. And but that thing where it was like, oh my God, like you're seeing what's happening in Gaza and you're looking right through it. I mean, I'm convinced they don't give a shit about what's happening in Syria either, but it was just like one can be used as an example of like, you know, barbarity, whereas the other one is like, oh, you think that's bad? Well, here's a picture of a hostage that they should fucking release right now. And it's like, those hostages are dead. You don't care about them. They've been bombed to bits. And yeah, there was that. But then I don't know if I want to say something about that, because I just wanted to link in the second point that I wanted to make about the depiction of Arabs and the Arabs who it's okay.
No, I don't, because there was something else that I just remembered related to Netanyahu, but you can finish your point.
The point that I wanted to get at is the recent trailer that was released for the Alex Garland partially directed film Warfare, which is one of the most insane throwbacks to the 2000s era films, where the famous Frankie Boyle joke about like Americans bombing your country and then coming back over to shoot films that where it made their soldiers sad to kill you.
How's it going?
Going well.
That's that new guy energy.
Oh, he's back. That's the fourth fucking time he's done that.
So you're peeking at probing?
Peeking with serious intent to probe.
Alpha 2, we might have guys starting to move in our position.
Copy, we're getting a buildup of activity here too.
Yeah, I definitely see weapons at this point.
Yeah, we have definite massing.
Just a fucking bunch of boys. They're fucking boys, and they were sent over there on a fucking lie. And these Navy SEAL team are just hanging out, and then a bunch of like fucking darka Arabs. The guys who like none of them wear fucking shoes, and they're all just screaming gobbledygook at each other. And like you can see it, but the way that they're depicted as well, like when they're played by people, it's like the director's like, no, what I'm going to need you to do is remove any ounce of humanity from your eyes. You're not somebody who has an interior life. You don't have hobbies. The thing that you love to do most is just carry around an AK-47 and abuse your wife. Okay.
Yes, exactly. And we need to free these women.
Yeah, and that's what it is. And it's just like, what a coincidence that this trailer should come out at this moment in time. And like, what it is like, you can just look at it as a concerted effort to be like, we've spent a year now seeing like Arabs just crying. They're like in the most horrific shit of just like people who are in literal hell. You know what I mean? I saw a photo of a guy on his knees as bombs were going off around him. The entire background illuminated like he was in the pit. He was holding his head screaming like that. Like it was something out of like Dante's, and you're just looking at some painting from this is a literal depiction of hell. Like people, you remember like the tent hospital that was bombed and like the hand that was on fire with the like little wristband hanging off of it. Like it is like, it's unspeakable what's happening. And like, Palestinians as well, like, they just, people are showing unprecedented solidarity in a way that they weren't showing with solidarity with the Iraqis, for example. Like the war in Iraq was wrong, but I don't think that the Iraqis were ever really mentioned in it. And if it was, it would be like, look how many US soldiers are out there dying on a fucking lie just so that George Bush can get a bunch of oil. Whereas this one is just straight up like, these are human beings who are being massacred, okay? Sorry, but they keep mentioning stuff with Gaza, for example. LGBTQ plus shows support for somebody in Gaza. Hey, why don't you go to Gaza and fucking Hamas will throw you off the top of a really tall building, of which there are none left because you bombed them all, you fucking assholes. But like, ultimately, like that version of the Arab was just losing all salience when you would see the barbarity of the Israelis like boasting and showing off and protesting their right to rape prisoners to death, okay? And like and so then anyways, now what we have is with the stuff with Syria, where it's like, good news everybody, the West has come in. I mean, not the West, wink wink, but the West has come in, and now the women are able to go back to schools, and And that's the conversations we're having and talking about. And they're like willing the HTS guys just say anything nice about women, please. We need to pitch this. The dirty Arabs are like Assad, who supported Gaza, and Gaza is obviously another dirty Arab state, which, like, again, to link it back to that warfare trailer where it's like, the thing about those movies is that they would always have a character in it which is like the good Arab, okay? But the good Arab is like even still somebody who doesn't have an interior life, and they're like destroyed by the bad Arabs. And so basically, if you see a dead Arab on the news, then no reason to feel bad about it, because like it's just a toxic state which can never be healed. It's an awful state of affairs.
Yeah, like I've watched a bit. I've watched a bit of Homeland, and we also watched a bit of that show with John Krasinski.
Yeah, that was funny.
Where with Bong.
And then we watched the Benghazi movie.
The Benghazi movie was one of, like, as much as I love this shit, this was one of the worst things I've ever watched.
And then you watched Green Zone, which is my favorite of that. I love Green Zone.
I think I couldn't finish Green Zone because I really got bored towards the end.
Oh, it's a boring, bad movie. The thing that I find fascinating about it is that halfway through the movie, the twist is that Matt Damon discovers that they're in Iraq on a fucking lie. And I was like, that's the twist? Are you fucking for real right now? Like...
Yeah, because he goes to several warehouses where the MDS... No, wait, what are they called? The weapons of WMDs. Yeah. That's it. Yeah. And they were like, there was nothing. Well, who gave the tip? Well, the tip was, we got it from our source. What do you mean? But the source was wrong. The source cannot be. And I'm like, oh, okay, we're going to go this for the rest of the movie. I kind of got it.
I have to rewatch it, so I'm not entirely sure. But there was a movie called United 93, which Paul Greengrass also directed, as far as I know. But it was about the hijacking of United 93. But in that movie, and it's one of the only examples that I can think of at that time, they gave equal screen time to both the people on the flight and the hijackers themselves. And they tried to go with the hijackers, like, this is their daily routine. This is why they're doing what they're doing. Like, bizarre. Like, in that world of, like, 2008 when it was released, to be adding context of the reason that people were carried out those attacks. But I remember at a certain point in the movie, now I watched it when I was like in my late teens and early 20s, I remember feeling like, I watched Green Zone when I was in my teens as well, and feeling like what a fucking joke this was, and it was just the US absolving themselves. So when I watched United 93, I remember like having a distinct feeling of like, I hope that they all get out alive. I don't want any of them to die. So I think if the movie evoked that in me, it's worth revisiting to try and see whether like it holds up even slightly. So like when Paul Greengrass makes Green Zone, then you have to be, which is like, sorry, when I said Green Zone, it reminded me of Green Zone from 30 Rock, the David Schwimmer.
That's the thing, Gareth. Every time you were telling me to watch Green Zone, I would always think of Green Zone.
30 Rock, played by David Schwimmer, boo hiss.
So Green Zone, what else can kids and parents do to protect the environment?
Well, kids, you can tell your parents to buy a GE front-loading washing machine to save water. Because if the Earth's not here, where else is Green Zone going to dance?
What a great show.
But
anyway,
love it.
when you have Green Zone and Paul Greengrass going like, people were in there on a fucking lie, it could be that he's making that for somebody else. He thinks that there's somebody in America who's like, doesn't realize that it's a lie and is like, hey, this is for you. So it's like, I don't know, I'm not sure, but ultimately, like, I just wanted to talk about like, this is back with a vengeance now of like the uncivilized Arab needing to be tamed by the West.
Yeah, like, also, didn't Alex Garland already do that fucking Civil War movie and it was dog shit?
Yeah, it was kind of the same thing. I mean, like, that's what I thought it was anyway, because those Gen X guys are obsessed with the Iraq War, but they kind of seemed to have a very peculiar read on it, where like, again, it's very American focused. It's like, yeah, the Iraq War was terrible. Think about all those brave men and women who had to go out there and die for no reason. I was like, think about all the Iraqis who died. Like, they're always a fucking footnote in this sort of stuff, you know? And then it's
but they're
the complicated.
used to it.
Yeah, but that's it. And you're right. Yeah, they're used to it. You know, like, we're used to seeing these, like, the brown people are supposed to die. Like, that's what they fucking love doing. What I'm doing is I'm looking at the links that we put in our, exclusive Arab chat. We addressed some of them, but
yes,
there was it was thematically relevant because of what we were, whatever. It was topically relevant because of what we were just discussing. But RTE News writes an article: a shopping center in the heart of Syria's rebel heartland, cut off from the rest of the country until the fall of Bashar al-Assad, has been swamped by crowds stunned by the abundance of goods on offer. Like, again, of like, really in keeping with RTE's coverage with Israel, where it's like, you know, the football riots happen in Amsterdam, and then they're like, Netanyahu says that anti-Semitic riots have taken, you know what I mean? Just like copy and pasting from whatever international outlet and just taking the kind of perceived wisdom of all this. But it's like, there's so many articles on RTE about this where it's like, people in Syria are finally able to laugh again, you know? And then people I've seen...
People in Syria are able to fuck again after Assad.
It's very... while we were getting like really stupid and abstract about it, like, I was thinking about the Israelis and how they kind of have that culture of like, you know, live, laugh, love, you know.
We're going to dance again after all of this is over.
I know. Our love is stronger than your hate, you know, the kind of like Democrat, so to speak, and whatnot. And then you said exactly what I was going to say. I was suddenly reminded of like how similar it was to Leo Varadkar's COVID speaking. Do you know what I mean? Where it's like, we will dance again. But that kind of like, again, it's you know, the only thing that has in common is that weird, like, liberal homogeneity, the way of speaking of, and then that article headline that I just read out for RTE News. The favorite thing that like they love, buying things. We love buying things, folks. The shops are open again. They can go and buy things. They can buy things.
Like, yeah, it's crazy. They're just like us. They can go shopping, and it's Christmas time.
Yeah, it's Christmas time, and they love Christmas, the Santa and all that, you know, over there in the Middle East.
Can I just share a very small anecdote that happened with a former co-worker of mine from a certain country that we were just talking about, with very suspicious links to people who were in power. Anyway.
Yes.
One time in the office, I was setting up the Christmas tree. You know, I'm here for the shits and giggles. I don't give a shit. And the thing that this person said to me was like, can you get the guys, because he was recently promoted, or they were recently promoted as a team leader, and they were like, oh yeah, can you get the guys to kind of do Christmassy shit, because we don't want the rest of the people to think that, you know, we don't celebrate Christmas. I was like, okay, you know, I just didn't like this attitude of, you know,
I think you're hitting on something, like, I mean, that we've been talking about throughout, which is like, if I adopt all these things from the West, then maybe they won't kill me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This is weird. Like, they're, you know, just
it's all. I mean, I don't want to, you know, I don't want to drag identity politics into this, but you know, it kind of twisted my arm there, Gareth. But I just didn't like this view of. All the rest of the Westerners who work with us in the office, they think that the Arabs are backwards, and you know, they're just so Stone Age, like, you know, let's do Christmas. Like, if people don't want to do Christmas, then they shouldn't do Christmas, sir.
I know. It's literally that simple. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, do it if you want to do it, but don't be doing it just because somebody else is watching.
Yeah, so like, I just didn't like that at all.
There was an interesting speech by this woman at Oxford recently, and I think it was maybe look it up.
Maybe
no, I'm
look
gonna
it up.
speech. I think it's Harvard Palestinian. Did you see this one? It was like some sort of debate. But anyway, they put it up, and then like Harvard like took it down.
Oh,
and they are if it's Harvard at all. Oh, come on now.
I think I didn't. Can I be real with you for a second?
Yeah.
A lot of those things that are positive, I've stopped watching them.
I know. Yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, like any of this positive speeches or like, you know, positive depictions or talks about Israel, about Palestine, I just stopped watching them because I'm like, I know this. I like, you know, it's great. I'm not saying it's bad. If you share this stuff, that's fine. That's your thing. It just makes me depressed as a human being. But you know, because I saw Kayvan Novak. Yeah, he shared it because he's very pro-Palestine.
Kayvan Novak is an actor who's in What We Do in the Shadows. He was also the phone jacker back in the late 2000s.
Yes, and he was in Four Lions.
And in Four Lions, which is a great movie.
Yeah. And like he's very pro-Palestine. He shared it, and I've seen a couple of people share it as well. And I'm like, hey, good for her. I don't know what she's talking about, but she's wearing a keffiyeh, so I know.
Well, she had one at... Where is this now?
Ow, Olive.
She bites it or what?
No, she just stepped on my foot with her claws. With her Santa Claus.
Hey, it's a Christmas episode.
Exactly.
So here we go. I just like this one. Okay, yeah, this is... She really goes all in. But anyway, while your real estate agents call in their high-priced listings old Arab homes will always hold in their stones the stories and memories of our ancestors who built them. The ancient photos and paintings of the land will never contain you. You will never know how it feels to be loved and supported by those who have nothing to gain from you, and in fact everything to lose. You will never know the feeling of masses all over the world pouring onto the streets and stadiums to chant and sing for your freedom. And it is not because you are Jewish, as you try to make the world believe, but because you are depraved, violent colonizers who think your Jewishness entitles you to the home of my grandfather and his brothers that they built with their own hands on lands that had been in our family for centuries. It is because Zionism is a blight on Judaism and indeed on humanity. But this is the part I wanted to get to. You can change your names to sound more relevant to the region, and you can pretend falafel and hummus and za'atar are your ancient cuisines. But in the recesses of your being, you will always feel the sting of this epic forgery and theft. That's why even the drawings of our children hung on walls at the UN or in a hospital ward send your leaders and lawyers into hysteric meltdowns. You will not erase us, no matter how many of us you kill and kill and kill all day, every day. We are not the rocks Wiseman, thought you could clear from the land. We are its very soul. And it goes on. But like, I just liked that where it's like, you know, you hate us because you ain't us, and it's never going to happen. You know what I mean?
That is...
It's just... Yeah.
Sorry.
Bless
that
you.
is... Thank you. It's Chaim Wiseman. But that is very powerful, actually. I'm like...
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, damn, that is fucking amazing. That is...
Yeah, no. I think it's worth it bringing up as well because, like, I was thinking about this. I was trying to articulate this with my uncle, but I couldn't quite get there. Maybe you can help me now. But ultimately, so talking about that, we will dance again, you know, homogeneic liberal language. Okay.
We will dance if you want to.
And then I'm like thinking about it in relation to like the way Israelis use it. And I was like, it is funny that that's also the language of gentrification, isn't it? Like around Dublin, written in all those colors will be like, you know, you could imagine like in the fucking, what are we talking about? You know, the pink and yellow, like elaborate joint writing font written up and, we will dance again. We'll be up there. And that's like the Israeli stuff, like, our love is stronger than your hate. That'll be up there. And I was like, it's probably no surprise that it's the culture of gentrification that can also adopt. Oops, she's gone. Hey, sorry, I went off there for some reason. But I was just saying about that the Israelis have the language of gentrification, which is very funny. Just like that, they come in and then they go, yeah, we made falafel and we zatar and all that stuff. It's like they're trying to be like, yeah, we're like the ideal Arab nation, but they also obviously hate the Arabs at the same time and think that they're like filthy, disgusting rats that need to be wiped out. And
sorry, like my algorithm on Instagram, the reels it's been very fucked for a while because I've been getting a lot of Israeli content.
Yeah.
But they're like, one thing I noticed is that they're even trying to steal our jokes. Like Arabs, when it's like, Westerners, when they hear an air raid siren while they're sleeping, and then it's like Israelis, I'm just gonna continue having my shawarma and my falafel. And you're like, motherfucker, that's my joke. That's mine.
I love that, like, because in that Guardian one, the exchange that you forbid me from sending you any more extracts from,
Please.
She was kind of saying that, like, about Israelis. It was like, well, because essentially what she was trying to say is that because we live in a war zone, we've developed quite like a dark sense of humor, which the Israelis are always boasting about. They always are like, we have a dark sense of humor, but it's like, what you have is a bully sense of humor because everything that you do is like a joke that a bully would tell. And then when you're doing this thing about like, like, do you remember that other image that you sent of me where it's like Lebanese were sharing it on various chats around the time of the bombings there, where it was like me speaking to my Palestinian friend, and it was that picture of like Mel Gibson, the director, speaking to like the bloody Jim Caviezel Jesus. But it was that acknowledgement of like, well, this is what it's like, man. We're all in like that's like the dark sense of humor, and Arabs have a dark sense of humor because they've had the shit bombed out of them for so long, and they're surrounded by the violence as well that you were mentioning earlier on, which like the violence should be viewed on a scale, maybe that's I don't want to get into that, but I do think that like like ultimately like that there is a lot of violence present in these societies, but it's like not like it's not inflicted necessarily by the people in those societies,
and also,
it's inflicted upon them.
I mean, there's a lot of progress that's being impeded because of the West, okay?
Yeah, exactly.
And also, the other thing is that when people in Tel Aviv or fucking Ashkelon or any of these fucking places, when they get bombed, they have bomb shelters in a bunker underground, where nothing, they're not going to get pummeled. So they can...
And also not in danger of getting pummeled because the last time that they were striking on Tel Aviv, they were targeting exclusively military bases. Do you remember that? Where it's like...
Yesterday, they Yemen bombed, I think it was a police station or something.
Okay.
Yeah, and they destroyed the building.
Yeah.
But also it's Yemen, like they've I don't know if you've seen this, but they've started to kind of customize the rockets that they their airstrikes, the rockets are now customized. They have a kafia pattern on them, which is very cool. But yeah, that's
I mean, this is like, so yeah, where are we at? What have we accomplished with this podcast? We're at 2 hours now. We had to have a little break in between, so it wasn't that long.
No.
But ultimately, like, so what we tried to set out to do is we were like, okay, here's like the Syrian conflict, a little pocket history if we can. I think it's going to be up to better minds than us to parse that one. But ultimately, the long and short of it is that there's a very complicated, complex a group of factions who are fighting against each other in Syria. And I just wanted to comment on what you were saying, the weird dissonance by having the West just be like, great news, everybody, Assad's gone. And then using the opportunity to, again, bring back the narrative that the Arabs are stupid and filthy, and that they do it to them fucking selves, they'd probably be putting each other in a pit if we weren't doing it to them. I mean, we're not, and neither is Israel, and you don't call it a genocide, but like, and then, the kind of weird, like, gentrifying Western voice just going, good news, everybody, they can go to shops again, and then people having Assad be like the villain, which is not a fucking good guy, but then at the same time Sisi visits Ireland and is talking to Simon Harris, and it's like
the absolute gall of this man. I feel like we should have a separate episode for Sisi, because I've got so much
we have to do, but like, why was he in Dublin in the first place?
He was doing a fucking tour of Europe, like, just he's in Dublin, he's in Ireland, Sweden, Norway, and like just that, sort of I'd say Northern Europe, if you wanna and it was very funny to see people protesting against his visits in Denmark and Norway. And they were even swearing at him in Arabic, which was very, 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 very satisfying, because they said, I mean, if you want to translate it literally, it's your mum's vagina. So that's what they were calling him in, I think it was Denmark.
I saw that somebody got into his meeting with Simon Harris as well and managed to, but like was going like, why the fuck to Simon Harris? Why are you supporting this guy? Why do you know what he's done? And like, I think also
the guy that was he went in, he was in prison in Egypt in 2013. I think it was around the same time as what's his name?
Ibrahim Halawa.
Yes, he was arrested.
I wanted to ask about that. Like, so Sisi is like responsible for Ibrahim Halawa's imprisonment, yeah?
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's a very long story, Gareth. Like, this is post 2013. There was a sit-in.
No. We'll save that for another time. What I'm saying right now is that there was a concerted campaign to get Ibrahim Halawa, who was an Irish citizen, released from Egyptian prison for ages, and now they're like, anyway, nice to meet you. What can we do and to do business in future? It's like, this is fucking mental, like, and it's the same with like all of these other Arab nations that have just tried to get like legitimacy by putting on the World Cup, isn't it? I think Saudi Arabia is the next one to potentially put on the World Cup, and so like, you just have this thing where it's like, these Arabs are bad, these Arabs are good. But then we just need like a flattening out of the idea of Arabs in particular, because they deserve to be killed one way or the other.
Can I just add one thing that I've just read right now? So Al-Julani, who now goes by his Christian name, which is Ahmed al-Shara.
Okay.
Like his, I'm using Christian name as a thing, but like, his pre-ISIS name, okay? Just put it this way for the non-Arabs. And anyway, so he was being interviewed by the Beeb, and by someone called Jeremy Boyne. I don't know him. And he gets asked about alcohol.
Nice.
Yeah,
like, God damn, man, what are we doing? What are we fucking doing?
Like, he was asking him, so is Syria going to be the new Afghanistan? Is there going to be alcohol? Are women going to still go to school? I was like, it's just,
They are very eager to get back to that. They're like, I'm really tired of, like, I want to go back to this kind of looking at them in their weird ways and, like, trying to sit in my pedestal or sit in my chair in the West, casting judgment on all this type of stuff that's happening there. And then, like, they kind of don't really get to do that with Gaza, because it's just the level of violence that's happening there is so extreme and inhumane that they're kind of so like, that's what the kind of point of this is. They're just like so relieved, aren't they? It's like this is. I kind of feel like it's the same relief that the reason that people, the journalists embraced the war in Ukraine so much. It was like they were almost fed up of talking about COVID. So they're like, finally, a fucking war. This is great, isn't it?
Yeah.
You see them over there, and it's like the defining image for me when that guy was like, unbelievable. This poor mother has to make baby formula in a petrol station.
I know,
I was like, get fucked, man. You know, are you? I thought he was on O'Connell Street, and it turns out, no, he's near Kiev or something. And it's like, yeah, that's horrible. But like, you don't give a shit, you know?
Wait,
you know,
hang
like
on.
you don't give a... Huh?
Sorry. That video was from Kiev. I'm not being facetious.
It was in Ukraine. What I'm saying is the video where like this was ages and ages ago.
I know the one you're talking about. I've always assumed that was on O'Connell Street.
No, that's what it looked like. It looked like it could be like a spar on O'Connell Street.
Yes, I was thinking of this spar like right beside the McDonald's on O'Connell Street. Yeah, shit.
But it was like, you know, the mother making baby formula with the coffee machine here is sad. The one happening over in Ireland is not newsworthy.
No, it's disgusting because she's probably and I'm using this word just for this
ironically
bit. Yes, she's a junkie.
Yeah, I hate that word.
I know, that's why I kind of did a bit of a preamble.
Yeah, that's fair.
Cool.
But yeah, so I just wanted to say like just that these guys are kind of like the way they report the news is it's not for like the benefit of people.
No.
It's kind of like, well, I report the news because like that's my job and this is what my job entails. My job means that you go here and you do this and the guards hand you this, so you say this, and then you go over here and you do that, you know, and these are the good guys CNN has told me, these are the bad guys CNN has told me, and then that's that, you know, go home. Like, what do you want from me?
If you think of it, like we're living in... Like, we are basically living the same time that our parents lived in the sense that, you know, they're watching the news and there were these dark-skinned aliens from down there, you know?
Yeah.
And we have to now ask those questions because, you know, even though we're living in a woke world, you can now ask those Arabs, you know? So, like, are you going to go back to, you know, the days of the Prophet where you stopped technology, you know?
Yeah.
You know, are women going to sing and dance and shift on the streets? You know?
I mean, you know, the other thing about it is, like, maybe I'll cut this bit out. Do you think, like... you know, you see this and you're like, maybe Al Qaeda and the Taliban had a point, you know, about the insidious influence of the West, where it's like, no, what they're going to do is they're going to come over here and they're going to introduce sex and consumerism and all this type of shit. And then, like, they go to war over this, and it was like, can you believe how backwards they are? Anyway, you know.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at it, and it's again like the kind of like the Israelis, you know, when you think about that, like, I did that lady. So there was a lady, she gets released by Hamas. Yeah. And she kind of is very gracious toward her captors. A lot of people are like, fuck you, bitch. I wish you were dead. Anyway, parking that. And then the next thing, like, she does is she, like, appears at a festival wearing, like, a yellow bikini, which is, like, yellow is associated with
the fucking...
And it's like, that's what they do. It's like this weird, like, you know, the whole thing about, like, again, I would highly recommend the first episode of Bad Hasbro, where Matt Lieb talks about his, what do you call it? You know, where they could travel over. Birthright trip.
Yes.
And like the whole idea is, please come over, please eat lovely food, please fuck beautiful women and make like babies and join the army. And like there is that, it's like a Starship Troopers sort of element to it. But the fact is, like, this woman was at a festival. She gets kidnapped. She's like, they were, you know, then the news and the people are like, God, it better to quote Thomas Hand, better that she would be dead, you know what I mean, than be subjected to what Hamas is going to do to her, because they're fucking violent, disgusting, awful Arab.
Yeah.
She comes out, she's still got colour in her cheeks, she looks like she's got 3 square a day a few weeks later, and she's back out at festivals going, yeah, release the hostages, woo, in a bikini, and you're just like, this is so grim. But anyway, all this to say that then do you think that like all of those guys over there and who are going like the decadent West will destroy our values? And I was like, see? Fucking see? Like,
I know. I don't have anything else to say.
No.
I just I can recommend a book if people are interested in kind of learning about the different just the Sunni Shiite divide, and you know how it kind of influenced political powers in the Middle East and some parts of Asia, i.e. Pakistan. So it's called Black Wave. It's written by a Lebanese American journalist called Kim Ghattas or Ghattas. It's a very good book. IMHO. It's like it kind of covers how the divides between the Sunnis and the Shiites, how it influences the political players like Saudi Arabia, the introduction of Wahhabism into Saudi Arabia. I don't remember if there's anything about MBS in that, but like that's a different thing. And
Mohammed bin Salman,
yes, that's him.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, a lot of acronyms.
He's a current Saudi prince.
Yes.
Who chopped up a journalist in an embassy. Which embassy was it? It wasn't a Turkish embassy, was it?
It was.
It was? Okay, fucking hell.
Yeah, because his wife is Turkish and he was supposed to kind of sort out some paper for her before they head back to America.
Khashoggi.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it was the Saudi embassy in Turkey.
Oh, the Saudi embassy in Turkey goes in, doesn't come back out, and a bunch of guys come out with a bunch of different fucking bags that end up going missing.
His wife was waiting for him outside the embassy, and it took him ages before he came back. And
that is my favorite Trump moment as well, when they go like, "Are you still going to do business with them?" And he's like, "They give us a lot of money, you know." What I mean, gotta give him credit for that. Do you know what I mean? The Biden kind of furrowing his brows up there, and then they're asking him. I mean, I'm looking for I'm obviously I'm being incredibly ironic because everything's fucked and awful. But the idea of those like glossy-eyed psychopaths that look like PS3 characters, the Democrats, and they're up there like grinning from ear to ear, going like, "We hear you, we see you, and obviously we, Hamas, if all they need to do is release the hostages, and we feel bad about," you know what I mean? Just trying to be like looking contrite about it, and like you really give a shit about these people dying. Whereas at least we can expect, hopefully, from a Trump administration, where it's like, I'm glad these people are dying. It was like, I would much prefer that. I'm sorry. Then
absolutely, me too. Yeah. Like he is. I don't want to say he's honest because that implies that there's some goodwill. He's just very blunt, very forward with his words, let's just say.
Yeah, and then like it kind of makes it, talking about good guys and bad guys. I mean, maybe then when somebody says what they actually think, then you can decide whether you believe in it or not, rather than this kind of mealy mouth that just trying to get through the answer,
Yeah,
but then again, like people who believe them at this stage just want to believe. You know what I mean? They're not somebody who's like, if you think it's complicated, then you are insane. When it comes to like Israel,
Yeah,
like,
I know. Yeah.
Obviously, if you think it's complicated when it comes to Syria, you're not insane.
You're not insane, honestly. No. Like I was thinking a lot today. I'm like, fucking hell, this is complicated,
Yeah.
Like, Anyway.
Yeah, that's that.
That's that. Thanks for listening to me.
Yeah, I have no idea where this is going to go, what's going to happen. I guess we've got Christmas next week. We have talked about the Israeli embassy. Maybe I'll just release this as a Christmas episode. Who knows? Let's see how it happens.
Who knows?
Anyway, so you can find Zaynab on social media.
Yeah, sorry, I just got distracted. There's a taxi with, I swear to God, a Christmas tree on top of it. Okay, a small Christmas tree. I'll try and take a picture. But anyway, I have Twitter and Blue Sky. I just don't tweet much.
Whatever. People can find you on this podcast laughing in the background. Okay.
Yeah, if you're in
so these days.
Yeah. But my accounts, my socials are Chalky or Allahu Akbar on the Twitter and Blue Sky. And do I need to mention my Instagram? I will not accept creeps. I will not accept creeps. But anyway, and you can find me on Instagram. And I won't tell you where. She's so crazy. All right. All right, let's wrap up. I don't know. That was good. That was good, wasn't it? That was fine. There was some thoughts in there. All right, we'll leave it. All right, bye everybody. Bye.